I'm very humbled by that, but I'll tell you, from where I was sitting, Donald Trump won that debate too. Donald Trump's brand of leadership won that debate, and Donald Trump's vision to make America great again is going to win all the way to the White House. You know, but it's not like it's exactly been a fair fight out there. You know what I'm talking about? I mean, I get up every morning, I got to turn on the television with a stick, you know? I never know what's going to be on there. I mean, it's like many in the national media get up every day. It's like it's 2-on-1 out there.
No closing costs. Call today.
The national media
Celebrate the
And then something happened. The American people stepped up. And the polls are tied here in the Midwest. We're leading in several national polls around the country. This race is on. Let me tell you where it is. It is wheel to wheel coming out of the fourth turn here in Michigan, and we are going to go hammer down straight to the checkered flag. And we're going to bring home a great victory with your help. You know, she may have the media, the money, and the special interests on her side, but we got something a little more powerful. We got a great big basket of the American people that are saying enough is enough. We want to make America great again. You know, the truth is, people here in Michigan, people all over the country are coming to realize this election is not so much a choice between two people. It's a choice between two futures. So let me tell you where I stand. I choose a stronger America. I choose a more prosperous America. I choose an America that celebrates our highest constitutional ideals. So I choose to stand with Donald Trump and every American who knows we can make America great again. I mean, the truth is, 7 out of 10 Americans know this country's headed in the wrong direction, right? I mean, a majority of Americans actually worry now that our kids are going to have the same opportunity to live the American dream that we've had. I mean, people are longing for change. The American people have had enough. And we've especially had enough of the fast and loose ethics of Hillary and Bill Clinton. I mean, you look at her years as Secretary of State, and it really is amazing. So while she's Secretary of State in charge of all the foreign policy of the United States, over here she's got this private family foundation that's taken millions of dollars from foreign governments. And in between those two things, turns out she has a private server, apparently to keep all of what was going on there out of the public reach. And when it was found out in the media she had that private server, she used high technology and hammers to try and get rid of the stuff. But you know, the American people aren't putting up with it, and it sounds like the Department of Justice is starting to feel the same way too. I mean, after last summer when the Department of Justice said that having classified information on a private server was just extremely careless on her part. We learned about a week ago today, the FBI informed the Congress of the existence of emails pertinent to the investigation, and the FBI has reopened the investigation into Hillary Clinton's use of a private server while she was Secretary of State. Now, we commend the FBI for reopening the case and following the facts, because men and women in Michigan, you know what we know, down in the Hoosier State and all across this country. What makes America special is that no one is above the law. Now, we're confident the FBI is going to handle this investigation in a timely and professional way, but as we wait for more facts to come to light, with the election coming up so rapidly in 4 days, let's talk about what we already know. Okay? I mean, a couple of examples. I mean, we found out that at least a dozen companies that were giving money over here to the Clinton Foundation were also lobbying the State Department at the very same time. And the lobbyists that they were using were raising money for Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. I mean, we found out that even though she said it never happened, that while the State Department was organizing billions of dollars to rebuild Haiti after that terrible earthquake, that aides to the Secretary of State said that friends of the Clintons over here should be flagged for construction projects in Haiti, and everybody else just goes to the website. We found out that from the FBI that the State Department actually offered the FBI a quid pro quo if they'd let them change the classified status of emails that made its way onto a private server. And we found about this circle of enrichment, the media actually called it, where corporations would give millions of dollars to their private foundation, and then those same corporations would be asked to sign personal contracts with former President Clinton, $66 million over 9 years. So let me say this, Michigan. If only for their decades of self-dealing, the politics of personal enrichment, pay-to-play, and outright corruption, we must decide here and now that Hillary Clinton will never be elected President of the United States of America. We've got to make it happen. Make sure it never happens. American people are sick and tired of pay-to-play politics, and that's exactly the kind of politics that's going to come to a crashing halt the day that Donald Trump becomes President of the United States. His only special interest will be you, the American people, and Donald Trump's got a plan. After we re-elect this great Republican majority in the House and in the Senate, we're going to roll our sleeves up in the first 100 days. We're going to pass fundamental ethics reform. We're going to change the revolving door in Washington, D.C. We're going to drain the swamp. We're going to have government as good as our people again in our nation's capital. We're going to bring real change. I mean, in a very real way, this election comes down to change versus a status quo. And the other side would make you a promise. If you like a status quo, you can keep it. And they'll keep that promise. But for real change on the big issues, not just ethics, but on security and on prosperity, and on the Supreme Court of the United States, change comes when we elect Donald Trump as President of the United States. And we need to talk about that choice on those other big issues, okay? In the days ahead here, the next 4 days, you've got to talk to your neighbors and friends here in Michigan, because this election could not be a more dramatic choice. On national security, there's no question that the world is more dangerous today than the day that Hillary Clinton took over our foreign policy 7.5 years ago. No question. Our allies are less secure. Our enemies are more emboldened. I mean, there's entire areas of the wider Middle East that are literally spinning out of control in the wake of the weak and apologetic foreign policy of this administration. You know, leading from behind, moving red lines, feigning resets with Russia, and paying ransom to terrorist-sponsoring states is simply weak and feckless foreign policy on the world stage. Let me make you a promise. When Donald Trump is President of the United States of America, we won't be paying ransom to terrorist-sponsoring states. They'll be paying a price if they threaten to detain American citizens. But remember, it was Hillary Clinton that started that disastrous agreement with the radical mullahs in Iran. Former Congressman Hoekstra remembers that. He remembers we drew a line of our own and said, look, we put these punishing sanctions on Iran. We marshaled the support of the wider world to isolate them economically, and we said the only way those sanctions would come off is if Iran permanently abandoned their nuclear ambitions. But what this administration did was not only transfer a ransom payment, but $150 billion. All we got was a delay, right, Pete? All we got was a delay in the nuclear ambitions of the leading state sponsor of terrorism. And remember, it was Hillary Clinton, as Secretary of State, who failed to negotiate an agreement with the sovereign government of Iraq that would have allowed us to have a sufficient number of forces to preserve what the American soldier had won through extraordinary sacrifice in Operation Iraqi Freedom. I mean, it's important to remember, men and women. It's important to remember, men and women, that through great hardship, through great trial, and through great sacrifice, the American soldier won the security and peace of the people of Iraq in Operation Iraqi Freedom. They won it. I traveled downrange. I traveled downrange every year for 10 years in a row, visited soldiers. Karen and I have stood by the graveside of our fallen heroes and wept and prayed with their families. What the American soldier won by the end of 2008, this administration and Hillary Clinton literally squandered by pulling all American forces out without having an agreement to maintain and preserve what the American soldier had won. They created a vacuum in which ISIS was able to rise up and overrun vast areas of Iraq. We have American troops in harm's way right now, 5,000 special forces who have to win back what was already won at the close of the last administration. You know, before I take one step further, I have to tell you, I know there are men and women among us who've worn the uniform in that conflict and in other conflicts and in other times. If you served in our armed forces, would you just put your hand in the air and let us thank you one more time? Thank you for your service, and thank you for our freedom. And remember, it was Hillary Clinton, as Secretary of State, who left Americans in harm's way in Benghazi and never sent help. And after four Americans fell, she told the very families of the fallen at Dover Air Force Base, as their flag-draped coffins came off of the aircraft, that it was because of a filmmaker here in the States, when she had sent an email to a family member the night of the attack, September 11th, that it was a terrorist attack, Al-Qaeda style. When she was questioned before the United States Senate, she said words I'll just never forget. Of those four fallen Americans, she said, "What difference at this point does it make?" Let me tell you something. As the proud father of a United States Marine, anyone who said that, anyone who did that, should be disqualified from ever serving as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the United States of America. You do not leave Americans in harm's way and not send help. And you do not say, "What difference does it make when they fall?" We cannot have 4 more years apologizing to our enemies and abandoning our friends. For America to be safe, for the world to be safe, America needs to be strong. And Donald Trump will lead on the world stage with American strength. We will rebuild our military. We will restore the arsenal of democracy. We will give our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marine the resources and training they need to accomplish their mission, and we will hunt down and destroy ISIS at its source, so it can no longer threaten our people or inspire violence here in the homeland. You know, that's probably why more than 200 retired admirals and generals, and you saw them on television last night, more than 20 Medal of Honor winners have endorsed Donald Trump to be the next president of the United States. You know, it's not just about security abroad, but it's about our safety here at home. It's about public safety. You know, we saw again the risks and the sacrifices that men and women in law enforcement make every week. Karen and I arrived just day before yesterday in Des Moines, Iowa. Before we went to our hotel, we drove over to 2 police stations where there were makeshift memorials to 2 courageous officers who'd been cut down in an ambush. Our hearts grieve for them. But this has been a very challenging time in law enforcement generally, hasn't it? I mean, my uncle was a cop. I got to tell you. Police officers were my heroes when I was growing up, and they still are. But in these times, I'll tell you what, it's challenging. Every time tragedy happens when a police officer is performing their duties, do you see how quick many on the political liberal left and many in the national media are ready to demean all law enforcement with a broad brush? Hillary Clinton herself referred, in the wake of one such tragedy, she referred to institutional bias in law enforcement. Well, Donald Trump and I don't believe that the men and women who serve in law enforcement are a force for division in our communities. We know they're a force for good. They are the best of us, and they deserve the support of the rest of us. There's a lot of members of the law enforcement community that are with us here today. Would you all just mind showing them how much you really appreciate the job they do, protecting our families and the sacrifices they and their families make? As the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the United States, I'll promise you, President Donald Trump will support the men and women who serve in law enforcement in this country at every level. We will provide them with the resources and the tools they need to protect our families and go home safe to theirs, and we will restore law and order to every city and every community in this land. You know, that's probably why more than 330,000 members of the Fraternal Order of Police have endorsed Donald Trump to be the next president of the United States. So it's about security at home, about safety here at home and abroad, but it's also about our prosperity. Economic numbers released this morning once again confirm this economy is struggling. The most powerful economy in the world is experiencing the weakest economic recovery since the Great Depression. I mean, 1 in 5 American households have no one under the same roof with a job. I mean, you here in Michigan know what we know in Indiana. Any progress you've made in the last 7.5 years has been in spite of what's coming out of Washington, D.C., not because of it. Am I right? 47 million Americans living below the poverty line, millions more than when Barack Obama became president. Hillary Clinton's plan? More of the same. More taxes, more regulation. I mean, more of the kind of trade deals that are shipping jobs overseas. I mean, more of the kind of policies that are stifling America's economy on energy and more Obamacare. You know, they tell us to be patient, right? They tell us this economy is the best we can do. But I think you all here in Michigan know better. It's not the best that we can do. It's just the best they can do. And when Donald Trump becomes president of the United States, we're going to put time-honored conservative principles into practice, and we're going to get this economy moving again. We're going to put America back to work. Because Donald Trump's got a plan. The man who wrote The Art of the Deal has got a real deal for the American people. We're going to work with newly re-elected majorities in the House and in the Senate, and we're going to cut taxes across the board for working families, small businesses, and family farms. Where Hillary Clinton wants to raise taxes by $1 trillion, we're going to reduce them to 3 simple marginal rates. We're going to get rid of death taxes once and for all, and we're going to lower business taxes in America so companies in Michigan can grow and prosper and compete with companies around the world and grow jobs here. And when Donald Trump becomes president, he's going to do what I did down in Indiana. On my first day in office, I signed a moratorium on any new federal red tape. He's going to do that on day one in the Oval Office, and we're going to repeal every single Obama executive order that's stifling jobs and growth in the American economy. And because we know that our vast natural resources among our God-given blessings in this country, day one of the Trump-Pence administration, the war on coal comes to an end. We're going to develop an all-around...
When Donald Trump becomes president of the United States and becomes negotiator-in-chief, you with me on that? We're going to have trade. I mean, exports support jobs here in Michigan. Imports keep goods low. But American trade is once again going to put American jobs first. We're going to renegotiate NAFTA. We're going to get out of this Trans-Pacific deal. We're going to negotiate deals with countries around the world that put the American worker and American jobs first. And we're going to get the manufacturing economy and the automotive industry growing in Michigan again. And lastly, Donald Trump and I are going to hold him accountable for all of the lies of the unaffordable care. You with me? I mean, really, remember all the lies? I mean, I was with a couple of these congressmen who are here, current and former. I remember those days. Speaker Nancy Pelosi, the day they passed Obamacare, went to the House floor and said, "We got to pass the bill so we can find out what's in it." Remember what they told us though? You remember this too? They told us if you like your doctor, you can keep it. Not true. If you like your health insurance, you can keep it. Not true. They said health insurance costs would go down. Not true. I mean, it really is amazing that even former President Bill Clinton the other day said costs are going up, coverage is going down, it's the craziest thing in the world. I guess even with the Clintons, sometimes truth just happens. I'll tell you what, don't be deceived by Bill Clinton's newfound skepticism. Hillary Clinton told you where she stands earlier this year. She said, quote, before they called it Obamacare, they called it Hillary Care. And she's got a plan to fix it. She actually wants to add Canadian-style single-payer health care to the middle of Obamacare. That's called going from the frying pan to the fire. She actually gave a speech up in Canada, one of those speeches she didn't want us to hear. She told these people up in Canada that she said she wanted to see a healthcare system in America just like the Canadian system. Well, we don't want socialized medicine in America. We want American solutions when it comes to healthcare. My favorite line on this, though, I just got to tell you. I mean, at a time that we found out from the Obama administration that average premiums next year are going to go up 25%. The average premium. The president went down to Miami, where I'm going to be before the end of the day today. He gave a speech celebrating the kickoff of Obamacare. And he actually compared Obamacare to the Samsung Galaxy 7 phones that spontaneously burst into flames. I'm not kidding. The president said, quote, when one of these smartphones has a few bugs, they don't pull it off the market, they upgrade it, they fix it. Unless it catches fire, then they pull it off the market. Well, what a coincidence, Mr. President, because that's exactly what we're going to do with Obamacare. We're going to pull it off the market so it stops burning up our wallets. Does that work? Donald Trump's got a plan. We're going to call a special session and we're going to repeal Obamacare lock, stock, and barrel. And we're going to replace it with healthcare reform that captures the power of the American free market. We're going to give consumers more choices, not more government. We're going to let people buy health insurance across state lines. We're going to drive down the cost of healthcare with the power of the American economy. That's the American way. And that's how we're going to solve the healthcare challenges this country faces. So it's about security abroad and at home. It's about our prosperity. But lastly, it's maybe of great significance. It's about the highest court in the land. I mean, the truth of the matter is, with the passing of the late and great Justice Antonin Scalia, the balance of the Supreme Court is virtually on the ballot in this election. Elect Hillary Clinton president, you better get used to more unelected judges. Use an unaccountable power to take unconstitutional actions. I mean, you hear the other night in that debate, she was actually asked about appointments to the Supreme Court. She talked about her appointees would represent a particular viewpoint on issues. I have to tell you, just from the bottom of my heart, for the sake of our Constitution and the rule of law, for the sake of limited government and the sanctity of life. For the sake of our Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States and all of our God-given liberties. Maybe of most importance on November 8th, Michigan, you have to decide here and now in this great state that the next president to make appointments to the Supreme Court of the United States will be President Donald Trump. It's that important. It's that important. So men and women, time's wasted. We got work to do. And as the poet says, miles to go before I sleep. But I got a couple things I'd like to ask you to do. Number one, vote. Am I right? And bring a friend. Friends don't let friends vote alone. Pack a lunch. Go early. But get out and vote. Talk to your neighbors and friends and make sure they're out there on election day. Because truthfully, at the end of the day, you need to put the priority of making sure that not only you, I know you're all going to vote here, you all come out and stand here in the cold. Although this isn't cold in Michigan. It's a summer day in Lansing. Hardy stock. But go reach out to your family members and friends and just tell them how important this election is. That's the second thing I want to ask you to do. Go tell somebody what this is all about. I mean, I said before, this election is just a choice between change and the status quo. At a time when 7 out of 10 Americans know our country's headed in the wrong direction. They know we can be stronger at home and abroad. They know we can be more prosperous. They know we can do it all on the basis of our highest constitutional ideals. They know we can have government as good as our people in Washington, D.C. Let's just tell them that only happens when Donald Trump becomes president of the United States of America. So you gotta go tell somebody. You gotta go tell somebody. Change is only gonna happen if we make it happen, everybody. Okay? And make no mistake about it, this election's in your hands. I mean, you know, it's the pundits and the editorial writers and all these people in the political class from Wall Street to Washington, D.C. talk like they get to decide. They don't. The American people get to decide. And the American people are going to make America great again. Come to one the So go tell somebody. And lastly, I'll just say to you, have faith. All right? I mean, have faith in the American people. I mean, have faith that every time throughout our history, that the American people have been presented with a clear choice for a stronger America at home and abroad, for a more prosperous America built on economic freedom and personal responsibility and liberty, for an America grounded in our highest constitutional ideals. When that choice has been clear every single time in our history, the American people have always chosen a stronger America at home and abroad, a more prosperous America built on freedom and an America that celebrates and cherishes our highest constitutional ideals. So have faith. Have faith in our neighbors and friends that if we do our job and we lay out this choice, America will again choose the road less traveled by, as Robert Frost the poet said. The road of freedom, personal responsibility. And lastly, you might have that other kind of faith. This is a hearty beat right here. I don't think I'd have a beat on a microphone in Indiana this time of year. You might have that other kind of faith too. You know, if you're inclined to do what Karen and I do from time to time, bow the head and bend the knee, be a good time to do it the next 4 days. And you know, and clearly on this one, you know, I'm telling you what, I'm here for the team. I'm here to say to independents who are tired of gridlock in Washington, D.C. I'm here to say to Democrats who are tired of liberal policies and bad trade deals. I'm here to say to Republicans all across the state of Michigan that we can bring real change when we elect Donald Trump as the next president, when we re-elect a great Republican majority in the House of Representatives. I'm here to make that case. But on this last point, let me just say from my heart, I think Abraham Lincoln had it pretty close to right. He was asked whether he thought God was on his side during his time. And he said, you know, I rather concern myself more with whether we're on God's side than that God is on our side. So just pray for our country. Just pray for America in these next 4 days, if you're on the mind. Because America matters. America matters far beyond our shores. And in these times of great division at home, of unknowable threats abroad, it's a good time just to pray for our country. And lastly, I would encourage you to pray with that confidence. Because I would say to you that throughout the long and storied history of this country, through trials much greater than we face today, the American people have ever relied on ancient words and put them into practice. And we should do so again. It's still true today. If his people, who are called by his name, will humble themselves and pray, he'll do like he's always done. In times of much greater hardship, he'll hear from heaven. He'll heal this land. This one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So, men and women of Michigan, I gotta go. We are headed to North Carolina, we're headed to Miami, and we are not going to rest, we are not going to relent until we do our part as a little family to see to it that we make America great again and make Donald Trump the next president of the United States. But now it's your turn. Now it's your turn. So you need to leave from here today. You need to leave from here today. Make plans to vote with a friend. Go tell somebody. Okay? Tell somebody the stakes of this election. Have faith in our neighbors and faith in him who put this miracle of democracy on these wilderness shores. And I'll make you a promise. You go do what you need to do the next 4 days here in Michigan. That man is ready. This team is ready. This movement is obviously ready. If you go out and make sure that Michigan is ready, we will elect Donald Trump as the 45th President of the United States of America, and we will make America great again. Thank you very much, Michigan. Let's go get it done.